what are we doing? We're shrinking down. We're getting kind of lean and mean as an industry, I think, or the smart ones are. And the next thing you're going to see is protection of your proprietary property, which is what? Your listing data. That is what's coming down the pipe here. So just watch. It's coming.
This also reminds me, we were talking about Fidelity's IPO, Fidelity Bank, right? So they have 16 branches locally. They did IPO in October. And when I was looking at their financials, I'm like, and the number of employees, and we had a conference across the North Shore at this big operations center. They have an operations center here, and I'm like,
for a 16-branch building, 2 operations centers.
There's a whole bunch of built real estate over time, and I think whenever you go public like this, you're going to be scrutinized, and you're probably going to size down quite a bit.
Yep. All right, cool. Well, we spent a few more minutes on that than expected, but all right, our first guest today. Don't go too far, Tim. You need a drink or anything or a coffee? Okay, so I want to introduce you all to a friend of mine I've known for a while, Tim Williamson. Tim is really, if he's not the father or founder of the entrepreneurship movement in New Orleans, he was certainly heavily, heavily involved. And you probably remember Tim's name as maybe editor of the Times-Picayune for a time, but really for the startup kind of incubator that they put on New Orleans Entrepreneurship Week, which you might have attended. So everybody, let's welcome Tim Williamson to talk to us today. Why did I blank on the name of Idea Village? Thank you. Come on up, Tim. Yeah, let's chat. I can't believe yeah, you know. Yeah, 3 martinis with Evelyn.
So good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for coming to my stage.
Yeah.
Just making sure you've got that green light on your
okay.
pack there. But all right, so I am fascinated by what you're doing because I get these great emails from you on Sunday nights talking about how great New Orleans is doing with this entrepreneurial scene, and you give me lots of hope and encouragement. And you guys are doing the work. So why? What makes you want to do this? Why are you keep doing this 20 plus years in?
Well, I'm glad you're hopeful, right? We need to be hopeful.
Somebody's got to be.
Well, good morning, everybody. He called me up last night, so this is a very entrepreneurial speech. Well, I mean, if you're asking why, I mean, I'm born and raised in New Orleans. I mean, we're from here. And I think the longer story, I was born in the mid-'60s, right at the peak of, I think we had 600,000 people. And my whole life we grew up, and it seemed like the city was going down every year, and crime, corruption, and the Saints never had a winning season. And I was part of a generation that left in the mid-'80s when I graduated from Tulane and went to New York, Boston, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, came home. So to answer your question is, I love the city so much, but when you see it externally, it's not okay. It's not okay to not be great at education or be great at, or have crime or corruption or the Saints can't win. So I think, when you mentioned the Idea Village, that was just 5 entrepreneurs we're all in the internet business in the late 90s trying to do something cool in New Orleans, and no one understood it. And we're all from different high schools. We didn't like each other. We all fought. But we came to the conclusion that the problem wasn't education, crime, or corruption. It was leadership. And I think we just needed new leaders who were going to be thinking differently, challenging status quo, trying new ideas, and that's where the Idea Village was born. So to answer your question, I think New Orleans is the greatest city in the world. I mean, we have the greatest assets. We've never really believed in ourselves. And I think but we have all these assets. So over the last 25 years, we're building an ecosystem or a network of folks who would build businesses here, raise money here, and then more importantly, reinvest back is something we felt could change it. But ending it with, I see more opportunity now, certainly than 25 years ago. We have the ecosystem in place, we have capital in place, we have entrepreneurs doing stuff, we have exits, and we have actually a legitimate shot of being a remarkable city. I don't know if that answers your question.
It absolutely does. I'm trying to think of how I want to take it next, but so I agree with you, and I think the next thing that makes me really excited is that you did it with Idea Village, and then you left and you started kind of New Society, which was a playoff of Crew to New, which were the people that pitched to Jim Coulter. And, why is New Society? How is it different than what Idea Village was? Why is this the right thing for New Orleans? And
So in my brain, it's just an extension of, it's a continuation of the original vision of the Five Guys in the Bar 25 years ago was to have a village, to have a physical place that would be a home of innovation, entrepreneurship, optimism. You know, we envisioned and we looked at a bunch of different places, and this was back in 98, 99, 2000. The problem, there wasn't any community. There weren't any entrepreneurs, weren't any investors. There certainly wasn't anybody going to a building. So back in 2021, when we had about $2.8 billion of exits, so Lucid, Level Set.
Wait, say that again. In 2021, New Orleans had $2.8 billion of exits. So they got bought by other companies for a total of $2.8 billion.
Yeah, in 2021, companies born out of New Orleans, locals, who went through the ecosystem, sold their companies. Lucid sold for $1.1 billion, which is the first billion-dollar exit. Level Set sold for $500 million. And Scott Wolf was a lawyer who had this idea around technology and liens.
And 500 million sounds small next to 1.1, but actually it was the biggest one ever at that time, and then Lucid was next, right, with 1.1 billion.
Correct. And there's a couple other 75 million, 100 million. But that's, I don't remember the exact number, but that's 300 local families got local wealth. So that money stayed, a lot of money stayed locally. So that's new capital. And for the first time, certainly in my lifetime, but within the ecosystem, we had the first generation of entrepreneurs created here, sold here, and now the wealth is being reinvested back into the city, which is that beginning of that flywheel. And so that we decided with Patrick Comer, who sold Lucid, and a guy named Zach Kupperman, who's a local developer, it's time for the place. And so, and don't think there was a big business plan, but we've always admired the Eiffel Society building, which we've all probably been to for our bar mitzvah or the Red Room or whatever we've all done there. But it's this incredible building that's never really worked. But in our mind, it is the epitome of this innovative, collaborative space right on St. Charles Avenue. So if this new society were to ever have a home base being on St. Charles Avenue. So we took it over in 2021, 2022, and we invited Who Wants to Be In, and about 504 people joined us in the beginning to be part of it. So we hope this is that physical manifestation of innovation and entrepreneurship in New Orleans, and this will set us up for the next 20, 25 years.
I love that real estate is key to it, that you think that in such a high-tech mindset that real estate and physicality is where you're kind of going back to.
Yeah.
And why is that so important?
Well, I think at the heart of an ecosystem or the heart of a community, and certainly entrepreneurship, is about trust and relationships. And there's no better place to build trust and relationships than being together and to have physical relationships. And so the idea of having a home base that people could connect, a place that you could go there and be inspired, and in a sense the symbolism of being on St. Charles Avenue, to have the entrepreneurs finally have a place for Mardi Gras, we could watch a parade. It just is a sense of permanence, and I think a sense of community. But not to get theoretical, but I think as this wave of what's happening in the world right now, human connection is more important than ever. And how do we create real, strong human connections? I think it's technology and in real life connections. So we want to do both. So we think this is a nice place for us to start.
I love that. When I go to events at your space, it's always interesting because you might see Patrick Comer there, who's taken Lucid back to New Orleans, which is pretty cool to come full circle. But you also shake hands with somebody having a drink who's trying to do a solar startup and wants to deploy a solar array that'll generate 200 kW in your parking lot. And you've got the people who are doing the cool things in New Orleans are showing up at your space, and I really admire that and think that that's a huge draw.
Well, I would tell you, I'm born and raised here. I've done a lot of things here. I don't know 80% of the people.
That's great.
Right. And we sort of took the word new, N-I-E-U-X, because you can't own new, N-E-W, so we can sort of play it off. But it really is a new group of folks where there are the tech entrepreneurs, there's artists, there's investors, there's civic leaders, there's real estate folks. It's just a different group of people that I think collectively believe in New Orleans. So I think that's the brand around sort of optimism. And they're open to exploring what's new and what's next. So we're not talking about potholes. We're not talking about crime. We're not talking about the Saints this year, unfortunately. But we're talking about whether it's AI or talking about blockchain or talking about crypto or whatever those new ideas that they're certainly talking about in New York, Boston, and Dubai. We should be out front in 5 years to talk about what is next. And so that's that comfortable spot that we'll be wrong 90% of the time. I mean, we'll be out there talking about things that won't work, but the 10% that we're right, we're going to be ahead of the time. So,
we talk here a lot about that New Orleans is the tip of the spear, whether it's climate change. I mean, Katrina was the first big climate change storm in the United States. We're dealing with insurance issues first, and the rest of the country is finally kind of waking up to it. It was us, then it was Florida and California, and now it seems like it's half the country. Why shouldn't we be the place that also figures out the answers first? And I feel like we're going to look back in 10 years and we're going to find that some of those answers came out of your place.
Well, look, we're all sort of guessing, but it feels like we're going through a cycle where human connection matters, place matters. You can really live anywhere in the world right now. I mean, with technology, I think people are choosing the places they want to be part of. And I might argue that New Orleans, there's no better city in the world where we love our city. It drives us bananas. But this sense of place in the city is as strong as any. I also argue that we connect better than anybody in the world. I mean, who has a Mardi Gras? Who has a whole city coming together, dressing up in crazy costumes, circling together, and we make, $1 billion in revenue every year? But we connect better than anybody in the rhythms and rituals. So I think that other communities will start to seek out, how do we do this? How do we create a community that loves it so much, that is connected so much? We may not like each other, but we certainly do care about it. So I think that sense of place is an asset, that human connection that we do. And I would argue this technology, whether it's AI or blockchain, whatever you want to talk about, is a way to strengthen human connection. So we believe that when technology meets human connection, why can't New Orleans be the best place in the world to learn about it and to explore it and then bring it back to your community? So we envision that this place on St. Charles Avenue maybe one day becomes a global hub where people from around the world will come down and say, how do you do it in New Orleans? How do you create a community that really loves itself and has figured out how to sustain itself over 300 years? So that's where we see the combination of technology and human connection.
Where all of our idiosyncrasies become an asset, essentially. The fact that we are old and we have old infrastructure and we have all these challenges, everything kind of becomes an opportunity.
Well, I remember after Katrina, someone, as the Wall Street Journal was interviewing when I was at Idea Village, asked me, do you think New Orleans could rebuild after Katrina? I mean, if there was another Katrina, do you think New Orleans could rebuild? And I was like, that's the stupidest question I ever heard, so we just did. Right? We just went through this whole exercise. The real question in my mind, if a Katrina were to hit a city and you would choose not to rebuild it, what are you doing living there? How could you live in a city you don't care about? Yeah. And I don't know how many of you guys were here during Katrina, but you really had to decide whether you wanted to be here. There was no legitimate reason that we thought would happen, but we believed in it. Yeah. And there was these rhythms and rituals. Mardi Gras, we showed up. Jazz Fest, Bruce Springsteen played that amazing set. And then, Steve Gleason blocks the punt. We brought ourselves back together the way we connect. So my question was, if you're not living in a city that you don't want to rebuild, how could you be in that city? And I think that is something we got. And I would ask, why do we love it so much? But that's what we see sort of bottled up in the place on St. Charles Avenue. There's just a bunch of people who love the city. We got every problem in the world. I mean, we can talk about all the problems. But that's an opportunity. Can this new technology help us solve some of these things? And if it doesn't work, we got Mardi Gras.
Yeah, and a whole. And if you didn't meet enough people, you can cement it with festival season after.
We'll sell beer and Zachary's on the Mardi Gras route. No, but I see a group of people, and I would argue that if you're born in the 60s, starting in the 60s, we grew up in a city of decline, and now there's a chance that we could go on a run. And I think that's the optimism we see.
So wrapping up here, what's happening with New Society in 2025 that you're excited about? And if somebody is in the audience and says, I want to be a part of this group, how do you get involved?
So what's exciting, we officially opened up the building, which was not easy. So we had to get all the permits and all the stuff that you guys probably do.
And we deal with. We don't do it.
Yeah, we deal
fight.
with.
Yeah.
It's an old dear building that needed a lot of help. So that is open to, and we have events there around different topics. We have about 1,000 folks who've sort of been part of it. I think what's new, we're looking to potentially buy it. We have a vision of creating an outdoor patio. So there's this really nice front door, and you can sort of, like an innovation campus is something that you would see and you could engage with, and it's open to folks to come in and be inspired. That's one thing. The second thing we're playing with is we're building an AI agent that is focused on how do you strengthen human connection. So if we have 1,000 folks involved with this, and I don't know 80% of them, how do you know people? How do you know really who they are, and how do you make real human connections? So we're exploring how AI can do that, and specifically being like a super connector, helping understand how does Jeffrey know Susie, and so AI. I don't know if you guys are thinking about this.
Or maybe why should Jeffrey know Susie?
Yeah, but AI is just a tool that businesses are going to start to use. So we're helping folks within not just the New Society, within New Orleans. How can AI strengthen your business? So that's something I think we're going to work on in 2025 is helping people think through that. And may New Orleans, be launching some new ideas that are helping solve real-world problems. I'll leave you with this. I won't mention her name, but she's a successful business person who was talking about, life is so crazy. You got 3 kids, and if you have 3 kids, you get all these emails from their schools, and you got group me's, and you got basketball and baseball. Life. And she goes, I'm failing. And she goes, there's a picture of the volleyball team, and every girl's wearing blue jerseys and hers wearing red. Because at the bottom of the email, it said, today's red jersey day, and she missed it. And she goes, can AI help with this? I go, I have no idea. Let's try. So they've actually built something called Au Pair, which is an AI agent that takes all your emails and basically says, today is red uniform day. And it helps you manage your life. And I'm mentioning that because so there's now a dashboard that says, hey, Susie needs to be picked up at 2 o'clock today, and Joey's going to this. And I don't know if it's going to work, but it's solving her problems. So I think that all we're saying is whatever issues or problems or things you're trying to solve, there's a new technology out there, and why can't New Orleans figure it out?
Love that. Any questions for Tim while we got him a few more minutes? Tina?
Of course. No, I don't have a question. I live 2 blocks behind your building.
Yep. You do.
Thank you. Because you just have, I was wondering, I was going to ask you if you bought the building because it was in such disrepair for so long, and now it's functioning, and the purple lights, it looks absolutely beautiful. So thank you.
Oh, well,
we love good neighbors.
well, thank you. I mean, it had been. I think someone wasn't there since Ida. And it was bad.
MJ.
So anybody knows anything about? Yeah, we've been on there.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for being here. I love what you do. I'm just curious, how do we find out about your events and get more involved? Because I think there is a huge connection with what you do and loving our city and what we do. So just love to hear more.
Yeah, we're actually want to walk with one of my partners, Lindsay, today. We're launching a media source, not a media side, sort of starting a communication side. So I send an email out every Sunday, so we're going to sort of make that more open to the things we're doing. But we do have all the socials and podcasts and stuff. So hopefully you can see it. New Society, there's a Twitter, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, and we just went on TikTok, which I don't necessarily understand. So we're starting to try to communicate better. And we're going to, now that we sort of officially are open, are going to have more events that anybody can come to that we can do things. I do a podcast with Michael Hecht every month called The Hecht Report, and I don't know what we talk about, but it's certainly interesting. And Walt Leger and I talk once a month, Walt Talk, and about tourism, and so we do sort of fun things just to sort of get it going.
Yeah, great.
That's great, guys that visit us regularly and give us updates on what's going on.
I get his emails on Sunday.
He took my idea. You know what? A Sunday email. He's like that. No. I think the cadence of having every Sunday night, you get some level of optimism. You're getting ready for Sunday, some hit of maybe it's gonna be okay. So,
I think it's great timing. I'm grateful that you do it, and do not envy spending that time over the weekend putting it out. But
Well,
anyway.
I would say, spending 2 hours of just going through new stuff is more therapeutic for me. It's just more of an exercise, so I know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that, so I think if there's any way you can pass that around, see
I
if it's
will.
helpful.
I can definitely. We'll put it in the post-show email that goes out. Okay. That we do every week. Jean's toil that people don't click on enough. Okay. Any other questions? We'll let this gentleman go. Tim, thanks so much for
All right.
coming.
Good to
Really
see you.
appreciate it,
Thanks.
buddy.
Thank you,
Great seeing you too. All right. I've been wanting y'all. I've been wanting Tim to come for a while. I always feel better listening to him talk, and I really think that he just exposed kind of the macro trend, which is we've gotten as far as we can get on Slack and all those other tools for people to just be keyboard warriors and communicate and like taking email and text to another level. Like Slack's just not going to take us forward as a society. But AI and using tools to make us connect and have more meaningful interactions physically, I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, zoom out to figure out how to solve your problems. I mean, there's solutions. We're living in a time that like the possibilities are endless, and you just got to level up.
Yep. And it's happening here.
Yep.
A few minutes away. Okay. John, do you have some good news for us this week? Come on, man. Oh. We've been beating up on John so much. Poor guy. It's not been very nice.